Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk to the libertarians out there because apparently some libertarians are actually considering voting for Vice President Kamala Harris, and I actually had a debate with a man called Joshua Eakle, who, even though I vehemently disagree with him, is a decent person, and none of you should harass, let me be clear about that, on this particular topic. And even though I didn't have to make the argument that libertarians should vote for Trump, I just had to make an anti-Kamala argument. I think I went out of my way to present her as what she truly is, the most anti-libertarian candidate in history. If you were going to try to make an anti-libertarian candidate, Kamala Harris would likely be worse. And I think I actually make this case in terms of civil liberties, in terms of economics, extraordinarily well in my opening statement, which is about 10 minutes, and I would like to play that for you guys so you could understand the case against Kamala Harris from a libertarian perspective. You can watch the full debate linked in the description. Yes, I'm wearing a three-piece suit during this. What did you guys think? I was going to be invited to a fancy venue and not dress up. And by the way, thank you to everybody who showed up to meet me in person, my supporters. I really appreciate you. So we're going to go to the Anna thing, and then I'm going to cut right to the opening statement so you could check it out. And please go and follow up and watch the entire debate, hear both sides of the argument, and realize that I am 100% correct. But before I do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
Okay. Can everybody hear me better now? Yes. The technical difficulties aren't my fault, but they're not his fault either. So everybody give him a nice hand for giving me this microphone. Okay, so one of the reasons why I agreed to this particular debate is because the premise, I find it to be absolutely amazing. Because if you were to construct a candidate out of nothing to be the opposite of a libertarian, that would be Vice President Kamala Harris. This woman manages to fail in every single category in terms of libertarianism. So I recently watched a John Stossel segment from way back when all the Democrats were running for president back in 2019, and he ranked all of those candidates in terms of how much they would add to annual spending. Now, remember, this is a race that had self-professed socialist Bernie Sanders in there, and he added a ton of money to the deficit. It was $3.9 trillion for Bernie Sanders policies. Elizabeth Warren, who should have been in second because she was the closest to a socialist behind Bernie Sanders, $3.8 trillion. For context, Biden's proposals, $287 billion, Trump $267 billion. So not great from either of those candidates. Kamala Harris, our champion of the day, $4.1 trillion and much closer to $4.2 trillion. So in terms of government spending, when she was running for president, she was the worst on this issue. And again, that's not over 10 years. A lot of times you hear that over 10 years. That was over 1 year. 1 year of her budget would have added $4.1 trillion to the deficit. To the federal budget. In addition to that, Kamala Harris is a chameleon. So right now she'll talk about criminal justice reform, or maybe she's reverted back to being a prosecutor, but we need to actually examine her record. In 2009, the California Supreme Court ended up ruling that California prisons were overpopulated. This was an edict by the Supreme Court. Kamala Harris, Attorney General, she was tasked with the task of actually enforcing that, letting out these nonviolent offenders in order to reduce prison population, in order to be compliant with the Supreme Court of her state's order. Now, my opponent is probably going to argue the evil orange man's threat to democracy and threat to institutions. But did you know that Kamala Harris was nearly held in contempt of court because of 2 years of her finding every which way around releasing these nonviolent offenders? Again, these motions were described by, I believe, Politico, but I could be wrong on that, as deliberately obstructive. And this was all to keep people in prison. One of the arguments that she put forward for why we needed those people in prison is because it would hurt California's economy. It would hurt their efforts to fight wildfires because they were actually using the prison labor as cheap labor to fight wildfires. Again, people who are nonviolent criminals forced into the most dangerous situations. Again, this is the libertarian candidate that we're supposed to vote for. On top of that, let's talk about appeal and interest in libertarians. So the evil orange man, not the most libertarian candidate. I understand that. But you know what he did? He actually went to the Libertarian Party convention. And the reason he did that was to ask for people's votes, because he believed that if you want somebody to vote for you, it is incumbent on you to convince them. Well, Kamala Harris's VP, which we will get into in a little bit in this opening statement, he decided to say on The Daily Show to Jon Stewart, when being questioned about accepting support from Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney, that the support of Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney are important because those are the kind of people that give libertarians permission to vote for Kamala Harris. Because according to them, the libertarians are being guided by Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney. Ridiculous. But again, that's on video, and that's as recent as this week. Now, in terms of economic policies, look, Trump, again, he's not the only candidate in the race. You could vote Libertarian. You could vote for Oliver. Chase Oliver, thank you. You could vote for Jill Stein, too. You could vote for Chase Oliver, and from a libertarian perspective, his platform seems like it's the most appealing. He has things about repealing the FISA Act, which again allows the government to spy on you under the premise that you're talking to somebody overseas. He also has way better spending proposals than any of these candidates, but that's to be expected for a libertarian candidate. But again, Kamala Harris, which I don't even have to prove, is the worst in every regard. So one of her big things that she's been pushing is this idea that she's going to help Americans buy housing, because we all know what we need in order to incentivize housing in the United States of America to become more affordable is a San Francisco Democrat. I mean, everybody understands this. So her big policy in terms of housing, it goes in three phases. So first, she's going to stimulate demand. She's going to give you $25,000 in a credit to help you buy a home. So that way we boost demand, because we all know that when you have a fixed supply and then you artificially boost demand, prices come down, according to Kamala Harris. But in addition to that, she also has promised that she's going to work with builders in order to build 3 million homes across 4 years, which is her first term as president. Now, that sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty impressive. But again, this rings very hollow as something that will reduce the price of housing, because these are the policies that they try in the state of California. They give people down payment assistance to artificially boost demand, and then they promise that the government will manage with these private companies in order to build the houses that will somehow increase supply. And the funny thing is about that 3 million house promise in her first 4 years is that right now, today, when we have a shortage of homes, guess what? We build 4 million a year. So there is no more better San Francisco policy other than we're going to gin up demand, which will raise prices, and then cut the amount of homes that are being built by 25%, and then call that a success. So again, absolute worst candidate. If prices are high, you don't need to incentivize builders in order to build. What you need to do is move out the regulations that are preventing them from being able to build. That's just my opinion, but again, he's tasked with making the libertarian case that that policy will somehow work. In terms of civil liberties, we already covered forcibly keeping people in prison in defiance of the California Supreme Court in order to force them to fight wildfires in the state of California, which is incredibly dangerous. But in addition to that, the Harris and Walz administration is going to be absolutely awful on free speech. So right now, we're dealing with the Biden administration, which is inclined to prosecute his political opponents. In Nashville in 2020, there was an abortion protest. Now, this took place in the hallway of an office building. Now, these protesters, let's be clear about this, they were arrested for trespassing, as they should have been, because when you're on private property and you're told that you need to leave and you don't leave, guess what? You get arrested for trespassing. We all understand that. But the Biden DOJ decided to take it one step further. They decided that they were not only going to charge them under the FACE Act, but in addition to that, they decided to charge them with denying people a constitutional liberty. So this ended up resulting in a simple trespassing charge being upgraded to felony charges, and now a group of individuals, most of which who are in their 70s, are facing multiple years in prison for a peaceful protest under the premise that they were blocking abortion access. And I invite anybody to watch the video because they weren't blocking the entrance to the place. Now, Harris has said that she would not change anything from the Biden administration. So to me, it is unlikely that she is going to pardon these people or reverse this, but if Trump is elected, that is likely the course of action that he will take. So in terms of First Amendment protections, Trump talks a lot about how he doesn't like flag burning or whatever thing that's bothering him during the day, Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, whatever this guy is tweeting about at 3 a.m. But I judge somebody based on actions. This did not happen during the Trump administration, but it happened during the Biden-Harris administration. And in addition to that, Tim Walz has said repeatedly, both in the debate stage and prior to being the VP nominee, that the First Amendment doesn't protect your right to misinformation or hate speech. These people are authoritarians. They're going to crack down on your First Amendment. In addition to that, we have the Second Amendment. And my favorite line from the libertarian hopeful Kamala Harris is that she is in favor of the Second Amendment. She's a gun owner, and she's not going to take away your guns. But she's in favor of an assault weapons ban, which means she's going to take away your guns. But in addition to that, it's actually come out that when she was San Francisco district attorney, she also wanted to come after your handguns. Now, it is incredibly impossible for you to get a handgun in San Francisco at the time that she was the district attorney, but she had one, but she wants to take it away from you. And I could go on and on because the same is true in terms of marijuana. She locked up people for smoking marijuana and then laughed about it on a podcast with Charlemagne the God. This woman is the antithesis of a libertarian. You could literally write in any candidate, living or dead, and you would make more use of your vote for the libertarian cause than Kamala Harris. That's it. Opening statement done.
I really hope you guys enjoyed this particular segment of the debate. I think I was pretty concise in those 10 minutes, but I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Of course, as per usual, if you like this video, show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the libertarian case against Kamala Harris. Till next time.